What's going on YouTube? Brezzy43 here. I am back with our next video. Today is August 30th, and we are nearing the end of Series 10, unfortunately. I don't know if they're going to extend it through the month of September, but when they announced it, they only had it going from August 1st through August 31st. So I've got tons of Series 10 content available that I haven't uploaded yet, but I've been kind of waiting to see what they're going to do next. These last couple of weeks have been super busy for me. I celebrated my birthday last week, which was fun. I've been working a bunch, spending time with family. Um, I've been playing some Series 10, but I haven't been able to record very much of it specifically the last couple of weeks. But I have been doing something a little more fun recently with a couple of my really close friends. I've been teaching them Pokemon. I've been explaining why certain Pokemon are good, or explaining VGC to them and how doubles work, and why why certain Pokemon are good and bad. And that has been probably the topic of discussion that has been most prevalent in our conversations, is what makes a Pokemon good. Is it just its base stats? Is it its typing? Is it a combination? It's a very loaded question that I won't get into now, but one of the things that I've been having a lot of fun doing with them is exploring types and why certain types are so much better than other types. Um, so I made a tier list video, at least I thought I did, but it turns out I wasn't recording. So the tier list is done. I just, did a 30-minute video or something on this, but it wasn't recording. So rather than just deleting it and redoing it, I am just going to leave it here and talk about it. I should shorten the video up quite a bit, but I wanted to do this just because, like I said, we've been talking about a lot. Why are these types so good? And I think how I rate a type is I kind of look at it from a couple of different angles. I look at it from how good is it offensively, how good is it defensively, and how good are the Pokemon that exist that are these types, right? Because that plays a role in it as well. That's part of the reason why some of these are so polarized. So starting off with the S tier typing, Steel and Fairy are by far and away the best two types. Steel is, in my opinion, the best type in the game. It resists 11 types, including its immunity to poison. It's only weak to ground, fighting, and fire. Some really, really good Pokemon are Steel typing: Heatran, Zacian, Excadrill, Metagross. Duraludon saw some usage this generation. Aegislash, Bronzong, Kartana. Tons of good Steel types have been really popular throughout the last couple of VGC years. So I think Steel is by far and away the best typing. Fairy is a fairly recent include. It came about in 2016 with the introduction of X and Y. But it was a very important introduction for the fact that Dragon was a little bit too good. Even though Steel resisted Dragon, that was the only resistance it had. Dragon's a very good offensive typing, which is part of the reason why Steel or why Fairy came around. But I think Fairy is a little bit better than they anticipated it would be. I don't think they're going to change anything about it now, just because if they were going to change something, they probably would have done it already. But Fairy typing is just very good both offensively and defensively, because defensively it only is weak to Steel and Poison, and offensively it's only resisted by Steel, Poison, and Fire. With being notable, it resists Dark and Fighting and Bug for whatever reason, and then immune to Dragon. And then offensively, it hits Dark and Fighting super effectively while hitting everything else in the metagame that's not Steel and Poison neutrally. So, and there's just a lot of good Fairy types as well. Xerneas is the big restricted one that's very good, but Fairy just seems like it's on every team. We've seen Tapu Koko in the past. We've seen Togekiss and Whimsicott this generation. We've seen I'm blanking on Fairy types right now. The Tapu Pokemon just in general, Zacian is Steel and Fairy typing. Grimmsnarl was a good support Pokemon. Primarina, Sylveon, Gardevoir, Mega Mawile, tons and tons of good Fairy typing. It feels like it can be paired with almost any type, and it'll be successful. So those are my two S tier Pokemon. The rest of these are A tier, in no particular order. I do think that Water and Dragon are probably at the top of this list, and I do think that Psychic is at the bottom. But these middle four can be interchanged in whatever order you like. Water is is a very, in my opinion, very balanced type, but it's a very spammable type, very similar to Dragon. There just aren't that many things that resist it, and a lot of the water types, like a lot of the offensive water types, like Kingdra, Kyogre, Dracovish, they're very strong and they deal a ton of extra damage. They set their own rain in a lot of situations, um, and they just take advantage of really strong water attacks. But additionally, defensively, water is only weak to grass and electric, and resisting steel and fire, which are really big things to resist. Additionally, water hits both fire and ground on this list for super effective damage, which is really big. Dragon, a really interesting swing. Back before fairy typing was introduced, Dragon was like, it was often common to see multiple Dragon types on the same team. Now, part of the reason why Dragon typing is so good is because a lot of the Pokemon that have Dragon typing have obscenely large base stat totals. A lot of the pseudo legendary Pokemon are Dragon typings. These are Pokemon like Dragonite, Salamence, Hydreigon, Goodra, Komao, and um, Dragapult. Now Gudra is not all that good, but the other dragons that I just listed have all been very good. They often use their dragon typing as a supplemental typing with the introduction of fairy. So talking about Salamence, Megaments often carried 2 flying attacks and Tailwind and then Protect. It didn't even use an offensive dragon move. It just used Dragon as a good defensive typing because Dragon resists fire, water, electric, and grass, which are big resistances to have. Um, Another one is like Dragapult. Dragapult is a ghost typing primarily, uses Dragon as its secondary typing in a lot of situations. Hydreigon's the same way. Hydreigon is a dark type that uses Dragon as a supplemental typing as well in a lot of cases. Now, obviously, some of those Pokemon still carry Dragon moves as well, but it's just not as common or it's not used as much either. One that I missed as well is Garchomp. Garchomp's a really big one. Really strong ground type that also had Dragon. Next, electric. Just a good typing in general, in my opinion. Resists steel, which is a big deal. Only has one weakness to ground, although ground is very difficult for electric types to deal with. Um, Additionally, ground hits water super effectively, which is really nice. And there's just really good electric types in general, like Regieleki, Tapu Koko, Zapdos, Thundurus. These Pokemon are very good. Fire is probably the first one we've looked at here that's actually, in my opinion, one of the reasons why it's so good is because it's an all-star defensively, and it is quite good offensively as well. But I think its big shine is its defensive typing, or how good it is defensively. Fire defensively resists both steel and fairy. It resists grass, and it resists ice, and it resists bug. So it has 5 resistances. It's weak to water, ground, rock. Yes, water, ground, rock. And then offensively, it's good against steel, good against grass, and good against bug. So fire picking up 2 resistances to the S tier types, and also fire types existing like Arcanine and Incineroar and Heatran. Um, these Pokemon are just very good. Colossal this generation was quite good. Groudon was a fire type in the past, so fire is very good in my opinion. Ghost is another one that's like Water and Dragon. It's just very spammable offensively. Only Dark resists it, and Normal is immune to it. Otherwise, Ghost hits the remaining 16 types for neutral damage. So Ghost is very good in my opinion. Defensively, it's weak to itself and Dark. Offensively, it hits itself and Psychic super effectively. And then the rest of the metagame takes neutral damage from it. There's been some really solid ghost types in the past, most notably Gengar, Lunala, Calyrex Shadow, Spectrier, Mimikyu. Dusclops saw some usage this generation. Ghost. People underestimate just how good Ghost is offensively, and defensively as well. It resists. It actually so it's immune to normal and fighting, which is quite good, but it also resists poison and bug. So it has four effective resistances, which is really good. Ground is a really good typing, in my opinion. Ground is a really good offensive typing. It only is resisted by grass and bug, while being flying being immune to it. Defensively, it is immune to electric, weak to grass and water and ice. So pretty good typing overall. Lots of good ground types in the past. Pokemon like Landorus, Excadrill this generation, um, Garchomp. These are all really, really good ground types. Psychic was the toughest one for me to place. Psychic, in my opinion, could go either low A, high B, somewhere in that area. But Psychic is just a pretty spammable type. There's a lot of really good Psychic types that exist, and Psychic types in general often get good coverage moves. They also get Trick Room, which is a really big proponent of that. I tried not to let my internal biases direct me here. So if it makes everyone feel better, I'm fine putting it here. But in my opinion, I think it's like low A, high B, just because it's a versatile typing. There's a lot of good psychic types in the metagame, or just in general. Pokemon like Calyrex and Lunala are both psychic types, but also in the past we've seen Pokemon like Reuniclus, Hatterene, and Didi. Um, Let me look. Bronzong, Metagross. Those are both like pseudo psychic types. Tapu Lele. Um, yeah. Oranguru. These are all like pretty solid psychic types overall. So in my opinion, psychic goes here. That rounds out our A tier. B tier was pretty straightforward. This is in no particular order. I do think the only order that I have it in is that I think Dark is the best of the B tiers. Dark is just it's really good defensively, pretty decent offensively. Offensively, it hits Ghost and Psychic for super effective damage, um, while being resisted by Fairy itself and Fighting. I believe are the only three things that resist Dark. Yes. Um, and defensively, Dark is weak to Fighting and Fairy and Bug, while resisting Ghost and being immune to Psychic. Yeah. But Dark types in general, they just feel really good overall defensively. Now, there are some offensive Dark types, like I mentioned earlier. Hydreigon's one of them. I think Bisharp was a decent Dark type offensively for quite a while. Um, I think that Urshifu was a really big include here. Tyranitar, Moltres Galar, these are all pretty good. Urshifu, these are all pretty good offensive Dark types. But defensive Dark types as well include Pokemon like Incineroar, Tyranitar to some extent, Grimmsnarl. These are all phenomenal Dark types that use their Dark typing a bit more defensively. Fighting historically wasn't very good. You've always had Pokemon like Conkeldurr and Conkeldurr was one that saw a lot of success in the past. Um, Same with like Mega Blaziken saw some usage. Hitmontop was a support that won Worlds. Cobalion, Terrakion, those guys. But now this generation we've seen both Urshifu forms and Zapdos Galar come out, and those are all three phenomenal fighting types in my opinion. Flying was kind of difficult to rate. If I was going to put one of these towards the bottom, it would probably be Flying, just because Flying is such an interesting type in my opinion. It was very very good in this generation just because of Max Airstream, notably. Max Airstream. If you had a Pokemon that could Max Airstream, it instantly got better and more desirable in the Dynamax metagame. Um, but generally in the past, there haven't been very many good offensive flying types. There's been good defensive ones like Landorus, Zapdos, Thundurus, Pokemon like this. But generally, offensively, flying can be a little bit lackluster. Flying is, or I guess we should touch more on fighting. Hold on. Fighting offensively hits Steel, Dark, and Fight and Ice, and Normal, and Rock. So good offensively, but defensively, it's resisted by Fairy. Ghost is immune to it. It's resisted by Psychic, resisted by Flying, and resisted by Poison and a Bug. Defensively, Fighting is hit super effectively by Psychic, Flying, and Fairy, and then resists Dark, Rock. I believe it resists one of these two. I think it's Poison. And Bug. Yeah. But flying is immune to ground, which is a big thing about flying. That's really really good. Other good things defensively about flying, it resists fighting, grass, and bug. um, and is only weak to ice and electric and rock. So it only has 3 weaknesses, which makes it a bit better defensively, in my opinion, especially when you look at some of the Pokemon that get this typing, like Landorus, um, Zapdos, and Thundurus, who all only have 2 weaknesses. Grass was difficult for me to place because grass offensively, before Rillaboom and Kartana, was a very weird type. Rillaboom and Kartana gave us really good physical grass types, but before that it was basically just Venusaur. Virizion saw some like kind of fringe usage. Amoonguss is a phenomenal support Pokemon, obviously. Serena as well saw some usage when it was made, but generally like grass is pretty difficult to evaluate and contextualize this high just because 7 types resist grass. Let me see if I can get them off the top of my head. Steel, Dragon, Fire, Flying, Poison, and Bug. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's one more. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's only 6. No, it's 7. What am I missing? Oh, it's Self. Duh. Yeah, so it resists itself as well. So it has 7 different types resist grass. But grass offensively hits water and ground, which are really, really big things to hit offensively, in addition to rock, while also defensively resisting ground, electric, and water, which in my opinion is why grass is up here and not farther down, because those 3 resistances alone are huge. Rillaboom resists all 3 of those. It resists electric, water, and ground, which is part of the reason why it's also so good as a defensive pivot, right? But Amoonguss, Venusaur, Kartana, these are all Pokemon that are really, really good and have been Ferrothorn since they came out. Normal typing is really interesting to me. I think normal typing is like the epitome of like balanced type. Offensively, it doesn't hit anything super effectively. It's resisted by rock, steel, and ghost is immune to it. And then defensively, it's only weak to fighting and it resists ghost. But everything else offensively takes neutral damage from normal. And there's been some pretty good normal types. Specifically, Porygon 2 and Snorlax have been huge fighting normal types in the past VGC. But also, like, to name a couple other ones, Porygon Z saw some usage this generation. Regigigas did as well. Indeedee, Mega Kangaskhan was a really big one as well. They're known for their coverage moves, right? So like Snorlax and Mega Kangaskhan, they get resisted by Steel and Rock, but they can just run a ground move. Or Kangaskhan often ran Sucker Punch to deal with Ghost types as well, and Low Kick to deal with things. So very good coverage. Rock is a type, in my opinion, that needs to be buffed in one way. I think it either needs to be buffed offensively or buffed defensively, but not both. Rock is just in such a weird place. Offensively, it hits fire for super effective damage. It hits flying for super effective damage. And bug, is that it? It only hits 3 types super effectively. Yeah, and it's resisted by steel. It's resisted by ground. It's resisted by fighting. And it's resisted by... Oh, it hits ice. Did I say ice? It hits fire, flying, bug, and ice. Okay. And then defensively, it's weak to steel, it's weak to water, it's weak to grass, and it's weak to fighting, and it's weak to ground. And what does it resist defensively? It resists fire, it resists bug, and it resists flying. So it's kind of in this weird spot where like a lot of the rock types that have been good in the past, like Tyranitar, for example, Rhyperior, Colossal this generation, Nihilego. These are like really interesting Pokemon because they should be like, some of them are very clearly offensive, some of them are very clearly like defensive, but they don't really like, they have too many things resist them for them to be super super good. The only reason why Rhyperior and Tyranitar were usable offensively is because their secondary typing dealt with a lot of the things that resisted their primary typing, right? So yeah, super interesting typing rock. I like it personally, but I don't think that that it's particularly amazing. I think it's towards the bottom of B tier. We already talked about flying. The last three here, I'll just briefly touch on. Ice, in my opinion, is very. It could use a little bit of a buff offensively. Defensively, ice is hilarious. Ice only resists itself, which I think is hysterical. Um, Things that hit ice super effectively are steel, rock, fire, and fighting. And then ice offensively is hits ground, hits grass, hits flying, and hits dragon. And then resisted by ice, water, fire, and I think that's it. And itself, right? So Ice could use a little bit of a buff offensively just because it is such a bad defensive type, but it is fairly spammable for the most part, and for that reason I put it above the D tier. I think that Ice is just could use some help, but I think it's fine. Like, I don't know. Other than maybe being a bit better offensively, I think if you want to have a typing that only has one resistance to itself, I think that's fine. But I think it should hit more things for neutral damage at least, so it at least has some direction to go. Previously, we haven't really seen very many good ice types. Like Glastrier was the first time we've actually seen an ice sweeper. But in the past, we've had things like Weavile. I don't even know. Um, Lapras was good this generation. Ninetales and Vanillux were good defensively, but otherwise there just aren't good ice types. Mamoswine was decent, pretty good offensively. Yeah. Poison, unfortunately, Poison's down here as well. Poison is a really interesting typing. It's one of the few weaknesses that Fairy has. It actually is decent defensively for the most part as well. So offensively, Poison hits Fairy, Grass. Is that it? Just Fairy and Grass? Yeah, that's it. Offensively. Defensively, Steel's immune. Rock resists, Ghost resists, Ground resists, itself resists, and Fighting resists, I believe. Poison, Ground, Rock, Ghost, and Steel. Yeah. And then defensively, it only is weak to Psychic and Ground. And then it resists Grass, Fighting, itself, and Bug, and Fairy. So it's like it's kind of in the middle, but the problem is that like other than Fairy typing, it doesn't really hit a lot of the things up here. It actually gets kind of destroyed by a lot of the things up here. And there haven't been that many good poison types in general. We've seen Mega Gengar have some success. We've seen Nihilego have some success. But other than those two, there haven't really been very many good offensive poison types. Amoonguss is pretty good defensively. Venusaur saw a lot of play this generation. Crobat's decent defensively. The Nidoking and Nidoqueen Pokemon, they're decent offensively. But generally, Poison just doesn't really have a lot going for it because it's just, it's too many things up here answer it, right? And lastly is Bug. Now, Bug, I love Bug, but unfortunately, Bug is just not a good type. 7 types resist Bug, and some that you would never understand why resist Bug. For example, Steel. Okay, Steel makes sense. Fairy. Why does Fairy resist Bug? I don't know. But Fairy resists Bug. Fire resists Bug. I believe Ghost. Yes, Ghost resists Bug. Fighting resists Bug. Flying resists Bug, and Bug resists itself. No, Bug does not resist itself. That's kind of funny. So Bug is resisted by Fighting, Flying, Poison, Ghost, Steel, Fire, and Fairy. It only hits Grass, Dark, and Psychic super effectively. Defensively, though, Bug's not bad. Bug is one of the few ground resistances in the game. It also resists Fighting, which is not a bad typing, and then resists Grass, only being weak to Fire, Rock, and Flying. So defensively, it's not bad. That's why Pokemon like Volcarona and Araquanid are actually quite good in the metagame right now. Their secondary typing helped them as well. But Bug is not a bad defensive type. But offensively, it's just very lackluster. Some decent bug type Pokemon. Caesar has been good in years past. Volcarona, Centiskorch came around this generation. Araquanid, Escavalier. But generally, like, there aren't very many bug types that are actually like really, really good types. They've been experimenting with some different things. I think Vikavolt is a step in the right direction. Pheromosa is really interesting, but generally Bug is just far and away the weakest type. So I think that's my tier list. I think that that is where everything, like I said, Psychic could go either direction. Flying was tough to evaluate as well, just because, like I said, if it could max Airstream in a Dynamax format, it was good. So, or at least worth considering. So previously, I know flying just wasn't as prevalent, but I think this is where I would rate everything. Water could easily be an S tier type, um, but I definitely think it's high A, low S, and then the rest of these are fine, with the exception of Psychic, and then flying could go either direction as well. So yeah, that's my tier list. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do this. We're gonna hopefully wait at bated breath here to see what's going on next. I've been making some updates to my Zacian team, to my Lunala team. I've been working with some Trick Room Kyogre stuff, just trying to make something happen for the metagame or something happen fresh to show you guys. But I'm just kind of waiting to see what the announcement's going to be for where we're going to go in September. So let me know if you agree with my thoughts on this. I would love to hear back from you all in the comment section. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will catch you all in our next video.